Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by a Hall of Fame promoter, Frank Warren. Frank, how are you?
I'm okay, mate. Yeah, all good, thanks.
Glad to hear it. Big show coming up. No stranger to big shows at the moment. You had one on Friday, now you've got one Saturday in Manchester. You're going up tomorrow, presumably, for the press conference. Joyce, Joseph Parker. How excited are you?
I'm very excited. It's a great fight. I mean, you've got two guys, you know, one's ranked number one, the other one's ranked number two by the WBO, and the WBO have now put it out for the interim title. So adds a lot of spice to it because the winner of the fight will become the mandatory to Usyk. So they've got everything to go for. And I think when you look at the two fighters, you look at their styles, I think they're going to gel to make a really competitive and compelling fight. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And is it for the WBO interim belt? Has that been confirmed?
Correct, yes, 100%.
It's a tricky fight style-wise, perhaps, for Joyce. Was that the only option if it was going to be for the WBO interim belt? Was Parker the only one that made sense?
No, not really. We could have gone in another direction, but Joe was determined that he wanted to fight him. We had it done once, then he jumped across the road. But eventually we got it on. We was determined to make it happen. But it's a tough fight. I mean, you know, I look at Joe. I know what his strengths are, and I know what, if you want to call him his weaknesses, where he gets caught at times, where he gets a little bit lax in defence. I look at it as a weakness, but for some reason it's not a weakness. It seems to spur him on when he gets clips. But I think this is going to be they're going to have to really dig deep in this fight. And I know Joe's prepared to dig deep, and he is relentless. He's, you know, the way he fights is basically, you know, walking forward. You take a shot to give a shot, and it's whether Parker can withstand that, and if he can keep a work rate up. Because one thing about Joe, he's got a good engine.
You got Amanda Serrano on the card as well. Big fight for her, unification. Are we likely to see Jake Paul come over for this? I know he's got his own fight to prepare for.
I'm not sure where he's coming in yet. I know Nikita's coming in, who looks after all his business, so we're looking forward to seeing him. I hope Jake can come in, but she's here, which is the main thing, because she's the one fighting. And it's a good fight. It's a unification fight, 4 belts on the line. And we're all looking forward to that one. And also we've got Raven on the undercard, who's the same weight as her, although she's only had, 3 fights now. I think it's her 4th fight. But I think we can fast track her and, you know, maybe in a year make that fight, if they keep winning between the two, and make her and Serrano. So it's a lot at stake for both of them.
Does working with Jake Paul on this fight make a Tommy Fury showdown more likely in the future?
Well, you know, my son George deals a lot with Nikita and with Jake's team, and they got a really good relationship. It was unfortunate what happened last time with Tommy, in as much that there was all the nonsense with the travelling and so forth. So it was what it was. It was nobody's fault. But we'd like to try and resurrect that fight and try and, if we can, do it in the UK. Now, whether we can do it or not, I don't know, but we'll have talks once the guys get in and see if we can get it over the line.
Now, you've come off a show last week, Denzel Bentley in the main event, retaining his British middleweight title. He's not far off securing a Lonsdale belt now, I believe. What did you make of his performance against Marcus Morrison?
I thought it was a really good fight. I thought Marcus come to fight, and he really did he really did try. And I thought, you know, Denzel just grinded him down. You know, he's got a good work rate himself. He throws good shots, and his style won him the fight. You know, basically putting it on him. He was relentless in his attacking, and it's great for him. So now he's one more fight, he gets the Lonsdale belt, but he's banging on to us about, you know, fighting for a European or world title fight. So we're going to look at that. Obviously, under our umbrella too is Hamza Shiraz, who's fighting in November. So down the road, I think sometime next year, that is a huge fight. You know, that's who's the best one in the, who's not about just being the British champion, who's the best guy in the East End.
Now, I've observed the protocol by talking about immediate events first, but what everyone watching this is going to want to know about is how close are we or not to Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, December the 3rd?
Well, we sent the contract. They've got the contract and they reviewed it. And I think we're pretty much accommodating, or Tyson's very much accommodating where he's at. And we've sort of basically told them that. Our side, BT have been quite, really been good about, you know, if we've got to get DAZN involved, or if DAZN are going to be involved. So really the ball's in their court now. But the fundamentals of the contract, because what it is, it's a voluntary defence. You know, Tyson's basically giving a guy who's lost his last 2 fights and lost 3 of his last 4 fights, he's giving him a shot at a title. And that is it. And on the strength of that, he's giving him 40% of the total net takings, a rematch clause, because you never know what's going to happen in a fight, cut eye or something. That's a 50-50 job. And Tyson was adamant that he wanted to fight in early November, and he's even accommodated him about fighting in December. So the real, you know, the 95% of what it's all about is done. And as I say, I think Tyson's been sort of financially, he's been really, really accommodating. So much he's done that because he wants the fight to happen. If AJ doesn't take it for any reason, what's he going to do? He's going to have a couple of fights to get yourself back into contention, gets into a mandatory position, and let's say that Tyson does fight Usyk and he wins all the belts, he becomes unified champion, or vice versa. As a mandatory, he gets 20%. So this is, it's just total no-brainer for him. It's a no-brainer, absolute no-brainer for him.
What's the current proposal on the table in terms of the broadcast situation? Because you said about BT being okay with DAZN being involved.
Well, the 2 broadcasters have to speak, and obviously BT are going to have to agree to it. I understand that he's got a deal with DAZN, but DAZN last time allowed his fight to go on to Sky, and I don't think we're saying. I personally believe that the TV companies should not stop this fight from happening, and I don't believe they, certainly from our side, they wouldn't. How could you stop the biggest fight in God knows how many years in British boxing? You just can't stop that from happening. Anyone who steps in or causes a problem hasn't got British boxing's best interest at heart. And the reason I say that, because the money isn't the issue. Normally it's the issue is the money. The money's not the issue. So it's about the TV companies working with each other to get this over the line. And I can't believe that any executive, and I know from BT's perspective it wouldn't be a problem, any executive would stand in the way of this fight from happening. If they do, how can they be in the boxing business?
So as far as you're aware, would BT be open to a joint broadcast being on both channels?
They've got to sit down and work that out, but they've done it in the past. I mean, you know, we've done things like in the past, and I just feel that, you know, where we are. I mean, first of all, what everybody's got to realise, this is Tyson Fury show. You know, Tyson's the number 1 heavyweight in the world. It's his title that's on the line. I think AJ's ranked about number 6 at the moment in the BC, and that's what it is. But we're bending over backwards, Tyson's bending over backwards to make it happen. Let's make it happen. There's no reason this fight shouldn't go on. If it doesn't go on, for any reason, it won't be from our side. And if it doesn't go on, I can't believe that AJ, after he's come out and said he wants to fight, it can be down to him. So make it happen. You know, this is it. We've only got a short window to do this. You know, by the end of this week, it's either on or it's not. And if it's not, we'll move on and they'll do what they got to do. But if it doesn't happen, do not be looking at us. Do not be blaming us.
What would be the reason if it doesn't happen? Because like you said, it seems like AJ's team have agreed everything.
There isn't a reason. There isn't a reason. Somebody give us a reason. I can't see a reason why it shouldn't happen. Why shouldn't it happen? You know, if you're worried about the books, because it's based on a percentage of the team, you audit them. Be in touch with them. Sign off on every deal. All of this, we're taking it all that's easy to do. You know, it's not, we'll tell you at the end how much you're getting. Be involved. Be a part of the contract with a broadcast. Be a part of everything. It's there to be done. It's there to be done. That's how accommodating Tyson and Queensberry are willing to be. And Top Rank, by the way, are willing to be.
In that case, why do you think they haven't signed yet?
Well, they've only had the contracts. When they got it on it's Friday, and they've had their show on. But it's not rocket science. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's not the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's a pretty straightforward deal. And I think there's going to be some conversations again today and see where we are.
Where do you see both fighters going after this event, should it take place in December? You said there's a rematch clause, but is that only if Tyson loses?
Tyson loses, yeah. Only if Tyson.
So Tyson, in your view, will win the fight, of course.
I believe that. You know, that's why we're making the fight.
Is it then all steam ahead for Usyk undisputed?
Yeah, that's what we want. Yeah, I mean, Usyk originally said after his fight and subsequently that he needed a break and he wouldn't be ready. I know Aegis, his manager's come back in the last sort of 5 or 6 days saying he'd be ready for December, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that now till March, because what Tyson doesn't want to do is be training for a fight and he pulls out because he said he weren't going to be ready, and I don't understand how that's all switched around. So Tyson has made it very clear to me, very clear, he wants to fight this year. So hopefully it's going to be Joshua, and I can't see why it shouldn't be. And if it's not, we will look for another opponent, and he will fight this year and then fight Usyk in early spring, probably next March.
If the Joshua fight happens and he loses to Fury, do you feel his career's over at that point?
With Joshua?
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends how you lose, doesn't it? It depends how you lose. I mean, that's up to him. I don't know what he's got left in the tank. I have no idea. Only he knows that. But look, it's not just about, for him, for Joshua, it's a bit about redemption. He's had, as I say, he's had the 2 losses. It's redemption, but it's well-paid redemption. So we'll see what happens if he's really serious about it. He said he was, and I don't think he would say something unless he was serious. He's a fighting man. So let's just get on with it and get it done.
Commercially, how big can this fight be? And is it bigger potentially than the undisputed fight because of who Joshua is?
I think they're pretty level, to be quite honest, because I think everybody who knows anything about boxing knows who Usyk is. He's had 2 wins over Joshua as a world champion, and obviously he was a very, very high profile, one of the most high profile sportsmen in the UK. So either of those fights are sellouts, either of them are sellouts. One because of the natural rivalry between the 2 Brits, and the other one because there's 4 belts on the line and who's the best. And you know what you can't take away from Tyson, he steps up every time. Every time he steps up. And now he's back on home soil, defended his title in his mandatory defence in his last one, and he's now on home soil again, and he's willing to put it all on the line at on very good terms with his long-standing rival. So you can't take your hat off to Tyson. He didn't need to do that.
We've talked about what it means for Joshua if he loses that fight. What would it mean in your view for DAZN? Because they've signed him to an exclusive deal, in inverted commas, it'll be 2 fights in a row that won't only be on DAZN. And then he loses 3 in a row.
I don't know what the deal is with them. I mean, I can't think the deal is the same after he got beat. I mean, I'd be very surprised to say. But whatever it is, it is. And as far as DAZN are concerned, so who's he going to fight next? He ain't fighting. If he don't fight Tyson Fury, that's a big downgrade for him. So who does he fight next? Hopefully, we haven't even got to think about that. Hopefully, he'll do the right thing, and he said he wanted to fight, and we can get on with it. But I think as far as DAZN are concerned, I mean, they're going to have to find, if they're paying him all this money that they say, I mean, they have to find him huge purses to fight guys who are not Tyson Fury. How can you walk away from that?
And talking of heavyweight...
Let me just make a point. And if you do walk away from that, you've got to fight yourself back into contention. To get yourself into that mandatory position, as I said earlier, you get 20%. So it's a total no-brainer.
And talking of heavyweights, one fight we were hoping would be made, it looks like you might be going in another direction now, is Daniel Dubois and Dillian Whyte. Just tell us what's the latest on that.
Well, we're looking at Daniel at the moment, and I'm hoping. I keep saying I hope we're going to have an announcement because of Tyson's fight happening and the date of it. We're sort of having to reconfigure things, but I think that probably will. I'm hoping we'll be in a position up by Saturday to announce his opponent. If not, it'll be next week.
And is it likely to be Dillian Whyte, or is that on the back burner till next year, perhaps?
I'm not sure at the moment. As much as I'd like to do that, but I don't think we can do that fight within a week of each other. It just is not, it's not possible. And unfortunately, we've got the World Cup in between all that. After that, so we're struggling date-wise.
And Anthony Yarde, he's obviously waiting for Beterbiev, who was injured.
Yeah.
But you want to keep him busy, presumably. When are we likely to see him next out?
He'll be out in early November. I spoke with Tunde yesterday, so we're looking to get that sorted. We have got it sorted. We're just sorting the opponent out, and that it's got pushed back again from yesterday because they had the hurricanes in Puerto Rico. They postponed the purse bids for him and Andrade. So those purse bids, Zach Parker and Andrade. So they're now on Friday, and if we win that, then those two, he will fight on that same card.
Oh, so you'll have Parker, Andrade, and Anthony Yarde also on that show. And then Daniel Dubois on a separate show.
Correct.
Lots of big things coming up then.
Yeah, some good stuff. We've got to get them all over the line.
One that is kind of over the line is Joshua Buatsi against Jean Pascal, which you're going to be helping to promote here in the UK after Lou DiBella beat Matchroom in the purse bids for what is an IBF final eliminator. Just tell us how that came about.
It came about because George spoke with Lou and they worked it out and won the purse bid. I mean, it's the second purse bid that we've been involved with, which we won involving Buatsi. So hopefully this one will go on. There's no ducking out of the fight with Pascal, and it's a good fight. It's a good fight for him, and I'm looking forward to that one. That'll be on again in November.
You've said before that Buatsi should be a much bigger star than he is, given his background and so on. Is that a risk then in promoting him in the UK, and that, you know, how well is it going to do kind of thing if he's not as well known as he should be?
Well, you know, the show we'll put together is a really good show, which we'll be announcing, and I think it's a real good quality show. And I think that, you know, him on there is going to bring a lot of eyeballs to him and the other fighters on there. It'll be a good quality show.
Is this kind of a way as well to show Buatsi what Queensberry can do in hopes of a future fight with Yarde?
Well, he's made his mind up, hasn't he? He is with who he's with, and that's where you go. I mean, you know, unfortunately for us, Anthony's been out a long time now, Anthony Yarde, but for me, he was a much bigger name and obviously had a higher profile, and not down to him, but, you know, the fact that Berbatiev is injured by then, this fight would have gone on. That's going to go on in January now. So, you know, this is his chance to establish himself to a wider audience and a bigger audience, and it's up to Buatsi when he gets in the ring to do the business.
There's just a couple of other bits before we round off. We know we've got the Sons of Legends showdown coming up in a couple of weeks, Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. You weren't overly impressed or taken with the fight when it was first announced. Have you come round to it at all? Has the hype kind of grabbed you?
There's a lot of hype, and I'm sure these two guys will be training their balls off. There's no doubt about that. It is competitive. What I'm not going to buy into is that I look at two fighters. I look at one who keeps being referred to as a prospect, who's 33 years of age and never done it at a high level. Every time he steps up, he's fallen short. And we look at Nigel's son, Conor, who's done extremely well. But you look at his record, there's no one on his resume that you would say is a quality fighter. And in my opinion, I don't think they're the best in their respective weight divisions in this country. But I get all the hype, understand everybody buying into it, and they will buy into this the public, because that's what it is. We're in this sort of era where people look at not so much the substance of the, I suppose in their case of this, you know, the rivalry of the past. They are buying into that like they do with these YouTubers, like the YouTube fights. They don't buy into what you would say is this is the best at this level, because it's not. It's not. It'll be competitive. It'll be very competitive. I don't know what's going on. I know the old man Eubank's been, I think, making some quite for a change for me, he's been making some quite relevant remarks about this weight situation, because that is dangerous. You know, the biggest problem for boxers' injuries, head injuries, is all about dehydration. And I'm quite sure that Tony Sims and that side will do everything they can for their man, because if I was in their position, I would do the same thing. And he's a guy who's coming up in weight, and I'm sure he's going to bulk up and he's going to put he's going to look the part and build himself up for a fight. The other guy at the age now of 33 having to weigh in, was it 3 or 4 pounds under the 3 pounds under? That's a lot of weight to shift at that. And I don't know what the situation is, what he can weigh the next day. But that to me is quite dangerous. And it is difficult, I don't care who you are, especially as you get older, to do those sort of things. And his dad's pointed it out quite rightly. And that's up to the border control to monitor, and they've got a big responsibility because the eyes of everyone will be on this, and and hopefully it will all go well. But I'll watch it because I watch all fights. I'll watch it, and no doubt about that. But I'm watching what it is, not what I'm being sold. What it is.
Do you think fights like this, and you talked about the YouTuber fights becoming more popular, do you think part of that is because we've got so many kind of TV or broadcast promoters in the UK now, so we're not seeing the best of the best fight each other necessarily?
I think the thing with the Benn and Eubank fight is purely what it is. It's down to their father. I think with the YouTube, it's because there's a young generation who follow these guys, and they're not following for boxing. They're following because they're controversial or whatever they're doing, or however they're getting their followers, by whatever acts or what people are buying into watching it. And then they're young guys, and in Jake's case, I mean, he's gone and trained, and he's fought a few guys who are what they are. They're the same level he was at. But now he's taken out a license, so you've got to say he is a boxer. He's got a license, and we'll see what happens with who he's going to fight and opponents. But he trains hard, and I like him. I think he's a great promoter. I mean, he is, whatever you want to look at as far as promotion is concerned, he's very, very good at it. But it is at the level it's at. That's why I would love to Tommy to have got in the ring with him. Tommy's a novice. He's only had 7 fights now, and I fancy it would have been a real test, real test, and we'd have seen what Jake had, and we'd see where Tommy is as well. So, and because of their public profile, their background, which not so much because of boxing, it's because I suppose as we said, what it is with Jake and with Tommy. He's obviously Tyson's brother, and he obviously was on Love Island, so he built up this following. But he is a fighter. He is, he has been boxing professionally. So I'll get why people buy into that. And I've got to be honest, I'll buy into it. It's another one I'll watch. I'll watch that. I've watched some of these YouTube fights, and I'm like, what is this all about? I mean, they're competitive, but they're donkey derbies. We're not watching, the derby. We're watching a donkey derby. And it's, and I suppose if you're saying this is a competitive fight, then I can understand why people buy into it. When I went out for the show when Tommy fought on the undercard, when Jake fought, what I was surprised at was the place was we got there early. From the moment we were there till we left, everyone was in their seat. It weren't like, that's what it was. PG rated. That they were in their seats. And they watched everything, and they were cheering everything. And I don't know whether they were a knowledgeable boxing audience, but the facts was they were there, and it was an audience, and they liked it, and they enjoyed it. So that can't be bad in some ways for boxing, that you are engaging with a younger audience. That can't be a bad thing. And I think if they carry on doing what they're doing, they'll obviously see better, what I would say, more quality and big, higher quality fighters, and they'll grow with it and get more understanding of the sport. But they are, Jake and a few of the guys are bringing these bringing these audiences there.
One thing I would say is if you look through the divisions in Britain, you pick out, say, the top 2 fighters in each division, for the most part, they are split between promotional or broadcasting boundaries. Is that a concern? Because we've got more TV boxing in the UK than we've ever had. So for the fans, it's good in that sense. But in terms of making the best fight the best in this country.
Well, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, that really, Dan, because you can go back to the old days when there was one TV company showing it and no one got a look in. Then there's 2 TV companies. Now it's broader, there's more promoters. So there's more choice for the boxers, more choice for the fans, And invariably, these fights happen. For example, we've made the Parker fight happen. We've made it happen. We're trying to make Tyson and AJ happen. So it's not for the want of trying. We are trying to make these fights happen. I know it was a purse bid, but we made Tyson and Dillian happen. So, we want to see the best fighting the best.
It'd be a lot easier, though, wouldn't it, if you had Tyson and AJ under contract, or Buatsi and Yarde?
It would be, but having said that, I mean, when the fights we have had under contract, we've made the fights happen. Example was Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yarde. We made it happen twice. The fact Daniel Dubois and Joyce. So we're not shy about doing that. Eubank Saunders we made happen. You even go back further. You go back to George Groves and James DeGale, and they were very young in their career. We made those fights happen. So I'm not shy about doing that. I wouldn't make the match if it was a wreck one of their careers. And I go back to, as I just mentioned, DeGale and George. It weren't the end of the world for the loser. They both went on to win world titles. So it was a match, we made that fight at that particular time. I think one had 11 fights, maybe the other one had 12 or whatever it was. It was a good rivalry. And we made that fight happen. I've done Cleverly and Bellew. So we've done that over the years. It's not about being shy about it. They're fighters. At the end of the day, it's going to go like this. And you get there and it happens. If they're under our umbrella, we try to make those fights, occur for the fans and for the TV and for us, because they're not the end of the world for the loser. What I do take issue with when we're getting these stupid stuff doing, I'm going to do my boxing news bullshit again, is when you're trying to get guys who've had like 4 or 5 fights and they're saying, why aren't you putting them in with somebody else who's, got a similar record? Well, what do I want to, I will use, who done really well, by the way, at the weekend, like young Royston. He's just turned 18. He's had 3 fights. He's a boy. He's not got man strength yet. So what am I going to do? Put him in with some 21 or 22-year-old, who's really flying. I want to bring him through. That's what it's called. Arsenal put a kid on this weekend who was 15 years of age. I remember Wayne Rooney going on at 17 at Arsenal when he played for Everton at Arsenal. But he didn't put him in a full match every week. You have to blood them. They have to learn their craft and their trade. And you can't just look at statistics. They're the easiest thing to play with. What you do is you look at what's happening in the ring. And a good example of, if you want to look at statistics, how they don't work, was
Frank Arnold.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. I mean, and there were other reasons in that fight, and he's a lovely guy, and it was great shame that obviously weren't. I didn't want that to happen. No one wanted that. We wanted him to win the fight, but it happened, and that happened because the guy who's in there was a bit more seasoned than he was, to be quite honest. Don't just look at the record. And I tell you, it's like, I remember years ago, Colin McMillan won the world title, and the first defence he wanted, I didn't want it. Jonathan Render was his manager at the time. He wanted him with Palacio. And I didn't want that. I actually wrote to him saying, this is not a good match. This is perfect. Look, he's got beaten by this one, that one. I said, yeah, all the guys who beat him were big, big punchers. And Colin's a really good boxer. He's not a big puncher. And this fellow will come at him. And unfortunately, he had that shoulder injury. But it was a much tougher fight for his first defence than he should have had. But statistically, you'd have looked at that and said, oh, that's easy. And it wasn't. It's looking at what the fighter brings to the table. Remember old Buckley? Yeah. 3-page spread. But he would go in, he got a 3-page spread in boxing news about his career. So statistically, anyone who fights him is a walkover, but it's not. So normally it was a close fight unless they were exceptional fighters, and you'd find out about your fighter, where he was, what he needs to do. That is about matchmaking. That's about good management. That's about good promotion. That's bringing a fighter through. That's the fighter and his team entrusting us to do the right thing. Some of the matches that we make are very difficult because there are trainers who don't want them. The hardest thing, we get the criticism, but a lot of the trainers, I don't want him, don't want that one. Yeah, and I get that and I understand that. So our job is to sort of walk in between that and make the matches and try and make them But what I always try to do, and you'll get a guy in there no one would have said that Royston was going to knock him out in one round and say nobody, because he's a seasoned pro. I don't care if he's coming off a couple of losses. They weren't against an 18-year-old kid who had 2 fights. And the way he went about it and his composure, I thought was excellent. And I do learn something from watching that. And certainly his confidence is up and he'll learn from that. And I just feel that when you're making these matches, then there needs to be common sense. And for the trade magazine to just say, the undercard features a lot of journeymen fighting a load of the house fighters, is just totally disrespectful to the fighters. Harry Mullen, who was the most respected editor, these guys couldn't lick his boots, was the most respected guy in boxing. For me, he was a neutral. I had a lot of fallouts with him, but I respected his opinion. You respect the undercard. It's called boxing news. You say what's going on. You don't just say, he won 50-45. What happened in that fight? Were they close rounds? Did he pistol round? Was it touch and go? What was it? How's the kid looking? So what are we going to do? We just wait until someone gets 9-0 before you get to see him. All these fighters that they're reporting about now, the big names, they didn't come through that system. They didn't learn the trade. That's why you got something to write about. Go do what you're saying. There'll be no fighters. There'll be no fighters at all. And I'll tell you what, and some of them, you're putting young kids in and overmatching them before they're strong enough, their game will be over. And I've had fighters, I've invested in fighters young who've not done it, who've got knocked over early on because you thought they were capable. I've seen that happen. But what would you think? I'm going to sling someone in and not let them get their grounding, not learn their trade, all that hard work they put into the gym, not being able to go into a fight and learn from that fight. And I know people say, how can he learn from something knocking out someone in 1 round or knocking someone out in 2 rounds or dominating a 4-rounder? You can learn, and you do learn. And some of them, including some of the fighters we've got, I look at them and they've won in a match they should win, but I look at them and I think, you're not ready yet. You've got a long way to go. You've got to learn. And they may have won the fight and you just statistically put that down to whatever. But I'm looking at what he needs to do in his next fight, what type of opponent he is. Is he going to make it, more importantly? So I don't need some, whatever you want to call them. I've never heard of it. Some of these guys, I've never even met them or heard of them. But I don't need them telling me how to do my job. I've been doing it outside of board regulations and inside for 47 years. Do you think they can sit down with me and tell me anything about boxing? Anything. They don't even understand how it works. They don't understand how it works sometimes with the trainers and managers, I just said. They get their favourites who give their reviews, in the trade, whatever. See all that, and most of them are complainers who are on the outside looking in. I see all that stuff. They don't understand how this business works, and I find that stupid. I find that, for me, is ridiculous. To say, out the last 100 fights, we've picked 94 winners, that ain't hard. That ain't hard to do. What do you want a medal for that? But you didn't pick all the winners out on Friday night, did you? You didn't pick Frank Arnold's opponent out as a winner. According to you, it was a walkover.
Frank, always a pleasure. The angrier the better, I think, for some of our viewers. But
I'm passionate. It's not even anger. I'm passionate about our sport, and I'm passionate about what is right and what is wrong, and I missed that call. And it's wrong.
Frank's just noticed he's missed a call from Joshua's team. Fight's off. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right, Frank, really, really appreciate your time, and let's do it again soon.
We will do.